Om Pavitram Charitam Yasyaha Pavitram Jivanam Tatha Pavitrata Swarupinyi Tasyai Kurmo Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shraddha Rupena Samsthita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Salutations at the holy feet of Divine Almighty. My special regards, my remembrances of the great soul Kirtishesha Sri Dayanand Sagarji, whose birth centenary celebrations are going on. Dr. Dayanand Sagarji was a very great educationalist. He was a philanthropist, a genuine politician, and of course, he was a very great educationalist, I must say. His sons, Dr. Hemchandra Sagar and Dr. Premchandra Sagar, are carrying on the laudable work that was very successfully started by their revered father. And I feel very happy to share my thought here that Sagar brothers happen to be the alumni of Sri Ramakrishna Vidyashala Mysore, a residential school run by Ramakrishna Mission in Karnataka. We have Dr. Balasubramanya Murthy, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Dayanand Sagar University here. I have very great respects for him. He is a very good educationalist. We have all the members of our family, the Sagar family. My special respects to Dr. Venkatesh, Director of MBA Department in this esteemed institution. Dayanand Sagar Institution is catering the educational needs of thousands of students. I was fortunate enough to participate in 2 different occasions in this university. The first one being one professor by name Dr. Ramesh, belonging to MBA department almost 12-13 years back. He had invited me for a talk to the outgoing MBA students. The second program which I remember very much is Sir M. Vishweshwaraya's birthday, which is celebrated as the National Engineers Day. I was guest on the dais in Dayanand Engineering College almost 10 years back. I know what a great amount of service this institution is rendering to the society, and the children coming out of this institution have occupied most prominent places in the nook and corners of the world today. I have been asked to talk on the subject, relevance of philanthropy, philosophy, and corporate social responsibility in today's world. Excellent topic it is. Ultimately, it leads to know about what are the human values, what are the values to be inculcated in every human being's life, which ultimately supplements in the process of the upcoming of our society at large. At the outset, I want to bring to your kind notice that the world is changing every moment. We have the greatest effect of globalization, industrialization today. Technological advancement, it has helped us to have the physical expression of globalization. We have globalized everything, but there is a great need for the globalization of ideas, This is only possible when the human beings can develop a global attitude towards each other. A spirit of oneness with all, that means to say, it is possible through spiritual globalization. Physically, man may be very much limited, but spiritually, he is unlimited, he is universal. When we study human life, broadly we can identify three different categories of sciences that every human being is expected to know about. Namely, the physical science, the science of values, and spiritual science. Physical science is something like the human dealing with the external nature. Here we have to study what exactly the external nature is. Secondly, we have to understand the forces acting in the external nature, and also how to control these forces for the good of man is the greatest challenge when we study the science of, the physical science. The next one is science of values. We all know man is a social animal. He has to live with his brethren. Here, the way how he can cooperate with other human beings, how can he assist other people, how can he become a very important person in the upcoming of the rest of the people in the society is a very important topic of our study. This science of values is a higher level of science. It helps us how to deal with other human beings. The third aspect is spiritual science. The first one being the study of nature. Second one being the study of relationship in between the human beings. And finally, it is the spiritual science. What does it mean? Spiritual science educates us that we are Atman. We are universal. As Vivekananda rightly said, each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to manifest this divinity. So the innate nature of every human being is divine. When man realizes that even though the people differ in their external appearance, in their external nature, their innate nature, the innate nature of every individual is one and the same. This is what Advaita philosophy that was propounded by great Sri Shankaracharya. We have studied so many civilizations in the world history, but we must keep in our mind that civilization or societies can survive only on the foundation of universal truths and not of ethical values. Ethnic values. Because these ethnic values are not universal in their nature. So it is ultimately the universal truths that can safeguard, protect, and help for the prosperity of civilization and societies. That is why Chandogya Upanishad says, Yadeva vidyaya karoti, shraddhaya upanishada, tadeva viryavattaram bhavati. Any work which is done with knowledge, conviction, and meditation will alone achieve maximum energy and efficiency is the meaning of the shloka from Chandogya Upanishads. So perhaps this old teaching of ancient Sanatana Parampara got reflected in the words of a thinker called Alvin Toffler, the author of the book The Power Shift, who says, history is created not by selfish majority, but by unselfish, creative minority. We all know technology and modern movements like globalization and liberalization, it has given a radical change to the society. It has resulted in very many ways. Today we find the friction between our ancient tradition as well as the emerging new ideas because of globalization. This has ultimately led to the cultural fermentation in human society. I am using the word cultural fermentation. This cultural fermentation cannot be avoided. It cannot be neglected also. It must be properly handled. If at all, if you want to know about the positives of this cultural fermentation, it gives fresh ideas of perceptives. Second one is the beautiful perspectives we get, the new ideas we get. The second point is it is changing our attitude of life and it is redefining the social relationships also. It is redefining, I mean. Earlier days, the social relationship, what we observed, differ from the social relationship of the age of globalization. But at the same time, the cultural fermentation has led to so many negative developments also. Very unfortunately to say, because of this, people neglect their ancient ethical and spiritual values. As the topic goes, we must know there is a philosophy for life. There must be a philosophy for life. And what is the value of life? The value of life can be achieved only by inculcating a life of values. That is most important. Life can get value only when we inculcate great human values in our day-to-day life. And we must know that this cultural fermentation, it has ultimately neglected the spiritual characteristics of our living culture. Only the fabric of industrialization, something like materialism, materialistic way of life is in the forefront, and we have conveniently ignored, neglected the spiritual fabric of our culture. When we sideline the moral and cultural and at the same time the spiritual values, the corruption has increased in the society. Not only corruption, crime, exploitation, strife, etc. are increasing day by day. Very unfortunately, the younger generation is growing up without any stabilized force of spirituality. That is the biggest negative effect of globalization and because of the cultural fermentation. The alarming truth is morality and spirituality, they figure very less in the dreams of success and happiness. Here I want to recall the words of Albert Einstein, who bagged 2 Nobel Prizes for his wonderful research on mass-energy relationship. Einstein says, more than a life of success, I respect a life of values. But unfortunately, morality and spirituality, they figure less and less
in the dreams of success and happiness nowadays because of globalization. And also, even though we agree that freedom is the first step of growth as propounded by Swami Vivekananda, freedom of choice is the toughest thing in life, and subsequently to realize the responsibility of making right choice has become the greatest challenge in our day-to-day life. So keeping these things in life, in our mind, let us study the great utterances, the experiences of great souls like Swami Vivekananda and Leo Tolstoy. Leo Tolstoy says, faith is the force whereby we live. It is the strength of faith that is the backbone for our existence, for our life to go on. If man does not believe that he must live for something, he would not live at all. These are the words of Leo Tolstoy. Swami Vivekananda, a great saint of human history, whom we can consider as the Adhunika Shankaracharya of the last century, he says, faith in God, faith in oneself is the only secret of success. Swamiji says, take up one idea, make that idea your entire life. Think of it, dream of it. Let every blood cell of your body reverberate with this wonderful idea. Leave the rest aside. This is the secret of success. Every young man, every person must meditate on these words of Swami Vivekananda. Faith in ourselves and faith in God. They must go parallel to each other. More and more we believe ourselves, more and more God remains partial towards us. God helps those who help themselves. This is what even Thomas Alva Edison said, who did 2000 inventions in the history of science. He says, genius is 99% individual efforts combined with 1% inspiration. 99% perspiration coupled with 1% inspiration will yield us what is called success. So perspiration means, again I want to go back to the pages of Bhagavad Gita, which says, Uddhared Atman Atmanam. In modern times, Swami Vivekananda said, oh man, you are the maker of your own destiny. In toto, it dictates every human being these wonderful words, because all our success mainly depends on our individual hard working. There is nothing parallel to hard work, we must know. Time is divine, time is universal, time is irreplaceable, and time is inelastic. So we must respect time. Man hour is man power. These are all the important aspects of the philosophy of life. And these are all the things propounded by the ancient rishis of India, Sanatana Bharat. Swami Vivekananda says, teach yourself, teach everyone his real nature. Power will come, glory will come, goodness will come, everything that is excellent will come when the sleeping soul is roused to its absolute activity. Do it either by Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga or Raja Yoga, by any one of it or by all, and be free. Swami Vivekananda did not stop there itself. Books, churches, mosques are but secondary details. No book can define the greatness of human beings. No books, no scriptures, no sciences can ever imagine the glory of self that appears as man. See, these are all the power capsules, the words of great Swami Vivekananda. By studying these things, by introspecting the truth behind, every individual can reform his life in the most positive and ethical way. This is what we call as education. Education should not be confined to university learning, because as Mortimer Adler, the chairman for the committee which was entrusted to prepare Encyclopedia Britannica in so many volumes, in the foreword he writes, the real education of any student will start after he quits the college. Then you may ask me, what is the purpose of going to college all these years? Yes, it will fetch you two most important benefits. Number one, by going to college, it will enhance, it will accelerate our intellectual curiosity. This is number one. Number two is, it will teach you a lesson whereby you will come to know that education is not confined to a particular period of time, rather it is lifelong exercise. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, I study till I get my sleep in the night, I study till my last breath in my life. See, learning is a continuous process all through our life. So our students, our teachers must be properly educated on those lines, that education is not confined to a particular set of notes available in any very popular bookstalls of the market. It is just some information about the subject as far as our examinations are concerned. But education is not for mere examinations, it is for life. Education must yield us information, that must lead us knowledge, ultimately that must result in wisdom. Education means wisdom, becoming people of wisdom. This is most important. Mere saksharata, mere literates cannot be considered as educateds. Educateds have their own special quality of personality, which I will explain in a few minutes. I want to quote the great words of a great chemist, Albert St. George, who bagged the Nobel Prize in 1937 for discovering vitamin C. He says how man undergoes evolution, the beautiful process of evolution. George says, snakes can grow only by bursting their skins. Snakes can grow only by bursting their skins. This bursting process of the skin is called as molting. This molting has to be a painful process, and should it fail, the snake would die. Likewise, mankind grows by bursting the outgrown skin of antiquated ideas, thinking, and institutions. Every learner should properly understand the words of George. Another great man, Bertrand Russell, says, increase of knowledge without increase of wisdom will increase the sorrow. We are experiencing this most negative effect in modern education scenario. As far as knowledge is concerned, our children are very bright, very much equipped, but they have become puppets. With respect to knowledge, with respect to intellect, they are giants. With respect to wisdom, they are puppets. That is why, even though we have 1,000 plus universities in the country, all the graduates who come out of the universities are very much suffering to know exactly the purpose of life. They don't know how to face the challenges in day-to-day life. And they don't know exactly the goals that should be reached by moral and ethical efforts. This wrong concept of life is the root of conflict in the world, wherein the price of ignorance is heavy. All our troubles are because of our spiritual ignorance. Then how to overcome this? This is another big challenge before us. Sanatana Parampara says, 3 components are required to make our life a disciplined life. They are Lakshya. In Sanskrit it is. Lakshya means the goal to be attained. The desire to attain that goal is what sustains all our further efforts. If we determine to meet the goal, we will keep the enthusiasm, the zestfulness to reach the goal. The second one is dhruti, which means determination. It is fueled by the memory of our lakshya and our energies to reach it. The third most important aspect is sadhana, which means practice. All these are very important components of our discipline, of our disciplined life, I mean. Here, let us have little more explanation about these 3 aspects: lakshya, dhruti, and sadhana. Number 1, if we only have the desire to reach the goal, if we have only the desire to reach the goal, but no determination and practice, our desire will remain a dream. Just desiring for the goal is not enough. It's all right, but even though we know about the ends, we have to take care of the means. Goals are important, as Vivekananda said, but means are more important than goals. Second point, if we are really determined but are not aware of the goal and does not make any effort at action, we will grow in frustration. This is another caution. The third aspect is, if we act without determination or an awareness of the goal to be reached, it will be an aimless movement of our limbs. We will dissipate our energies for no purpose. That will be the result. So we must keep in mind, lakshya, dhruti, and sadhana are the 3 important disciplines that will help our life to have a beautiful philosophy as the guiding force, as the guiding light. I want to quote the words of Abraham Maslow, a big name in the field of human psychology. Here you come across what is the philosophy of life, what is the nature of philanthropy, and ultimately the purpose of corporate social responsibility in our competitive world. I think all these three important points are chained in this beautiful postulate propounded by Abraham Maslow. He gives some ideas to achieve success in our life. We must be reality centered. He insists us to be reality centered. Many a times we behave like hypocrites. We betray ourselves. There are two terminologies in Sanskrit, Atmavanchana and Anyavanchana. Atmavanchana is more dangerous than Anyavanchana. Atmavanchana is a greater sin than Atmahatya, suicide. Suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Atmavanchana means cheating one's own self. It is unpardonable. We must be reality centered. Mere diplomacy will not work. Hypocrisy will never work for the success in the truest way. So we must be reality centered. Let us begin from beginning. Instead of comparing ourselves with other people of great achievements and getting disappointed, we have two options. Number one, we must compare I must compare I of today with I of a few months before. If I find some positive changes in my growth, that is really growth in the truest sense. If at all, if I want to compare myself with any other person, mind you, it should be only in the positive way and get the inspiration from the achiever, and we shall strive hard to come up in our life. That should be the motivational way. Second aspect, he says, accepting the self and others. We must develop self-respect. At the same time, we must respect others also. Atmavat sarvabhuteshu, according to Sanatana Parampara. O man, you must feel your own self in all other people of the society. You must give them a place in your heart. It is quite mutual. Atmavat sarvabhuteshu. This is what Sri Krishna says. When an individual can find himself in the heart of every person, and when every person is found in the heart of this individual, he is a great sadhu, he is a great bhakta of mine. These are the words of Lord Krishna. So we must not only respect our own selves, at the same time, we must respect all the people of the society also. Rabindranath Tagore, in one of his lectures, says, every new child born in this world is bringing a new great hope. I mean the message of God. That is, God is still not disappointed with human. That's why He is continuing the human generation, the human species in His creation. Third one is oriented towards problem solving rather than ego. Today, the greatest task of management is ego management. At any point of time, instead of catering for developing our unripe ego, caring for our unripe ego, we must always look at the aspect of how to solve the problem that has become a burning issue in the society. We must take care of the welfare of so many people, keeping aside our individual welfare. Fourth one, be spontaneous. We must be very spontaneous in our responses. Be creative. This is most important. We must be very creative in our attitude. We must appreciate the solitude. Many a times, we feel we are very comfortable in the midst of people. But equally, we must practice enjoying, the art of enjoying solitude. According to spirituality, solitude is ekanta. But loneliness is a negative aspect. I shared the stage with one great achiever in the global level, a well-known person who did great work in the field of solar consumer energy projects. After I finished my inaugural address, when I got back to my seat, this gentleman who was sitting next to me, the chief guest of the program, said, "Swamiji, I enjoyed your words. I shall come to your ashram to have some fun." Immediately I said, "My dear friend, if you come to ashram, you cannot get fun. Rather, you will have joy." Immediately he asked me, he is a Magsaysay awardee. He asked me, "Swamiji, what is the difference between fun and joy?" I said, fun is a social value. It is something like in the midst of people, one will be made a laughing stock and rest of the people will enjoy by laughing at him. Whereas joy is something where everybody will enjoy their part and none will be hurt. So joy is a spiritual value. Fun is a secular value, a social value. Why I told this is, loneliness is different from solitude. Many a times, loneliness leads to suicidal activities, whereas joy will help us to go for God realization. The next aspect is resistant to social pressures. We may have so many social pressures, but we should not yield to that. We must always resist the social pressures. And this is what Vivekananda said in his own words. Think in a big way, low aim is a crime. Yad yo vai bhuma tat sukham na alpe sukhamasti. Next point is capable of intimate personal relationship. Human relationship is a must. Kali Yuga Sangha Shakti. In Kali Yuga, we have to cultivate the faculty of organization, which is very much important. Next, last but one point is, we must be ready to learn from anybody, whether he is a small person in my institute, whether he is a big shot, whether he is a illiterate, whether he is a poor man, so on and so forth. Because we have so many things to learn from other people and their experiences will be an eye-opening for us. Finally, this gentleman, Maslow, says, respect the mystic experiences of people, where we come across meditation, japa, dhyana, yoga and all. In continuation to this, we must find the difference between a common man and a great man. Who is a great man? Who is a man of great success? Who is a man of ethical stand? To define this, these are all the most important aspects. Number one, a great man keeps calm in danger. Even during dangerous situations, he keeps calm. He has the power to say the right thing in the presence of many people. This is also equally important. The third point is, in prosperity, he has forgiveness. In battle, he shows prowess. he always exhibits the desire of learning. Finally, he always intends to do good to others. To inculcate these values, to achieve these values, what is the need? How should we equip ourselves? Here comes the words of Swami Turiyanandaji, the direct disciple of Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna, who says, try to live in the company of people who have mastered their minds. If you cannot live with them, at least think of them, because mind controls mind. We should know both the discrimination between good and bad. At the same time, we must discriminate between good and better, better and best also. Karmanye vadhikarasthe mafaleshu kadachana are the words of Sri Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. You have the control over the work and you don't have control over the fruit. This is Bhagavad Gita, which is reflected in modern physics as take care of the means, it will take care of the ends. Take care of today, it will take care of tomorrow, because today is the result of yesterday. So here, the important another point is, banish your fear and weakness. We should never weaken our mind by thinking about our past mistakes. It is the human eye that always finds the mistakes in other people of the society. God will never find, He will never dominate our sins. Just a glance of His will wipe off all our sins. And one more important aspect is their stubbornness. We are very familiar in the society, people of stubbornness. It is a choke for weakness. The weak wants to get shelter of stubbornness. This is because they want to hide their mistakes. The real strength knows how to bend and yet regain its true position. This is to be understood by each and every individual of the society. In the matter of opinion, my dear friends, we have to swim with the current. In the matter of opinion, we have to swim with the current, but in the matter of principle, we have to stand firm like a rock. You should know, physical weakness leads to cunning, spiritual deficiency leads to mystery. Both are dangerous. Unless and until we develop dispassion towards the society, we cannot have our faith and our love for the society at large. This is the most important thing. To transform our unripe ego into ripe ego, we must develop the art of dispassion. Many a times, we define a self-efficient man as he who is standing on his own feet. But spiritually telling, if I say I am independent, this I should not be the organic I, rather than it should be a cosmic I. Our faith can benefit us only when it is founded on the right knowledge, the right reason, and supported by the proper evidence. Before I conclude, I want to quote the words of Bhagavad Gita. From Bhagavad Gita, the words of Bhagavan. What he says. These are very important to be a successful human being in our society. Today, corporate social responsibility and such acts have proved beyond doubt that these are all the new remedies to make a man more versatile, more generous, and more sociable. Man is becoming very, very self-centered nowadays. So for that, we are bringing new laws. We are bringing new laws to make man educated on those lines. Because we all know this corporate social responsibility has become an obligation, something like that today in the industrial area, in the NGO history. Earlier days, you see, Samadhana Bheda Danda. You had dana, a most prominent virtue. Paropakararthamidam shariram. The human birth is exclusively for the welfare of the society at large. This is what Swami Vivekananda rightly said. They alone live who live for others. Rest are more dead than alive. So these are the things of ancient Sanatana Parampara depicted in new language in the past century by great Swami Vivekananda. Bhagavad Gita beautifully presents before us the principles of work ethics in our life. First one, responsibilities and privileges always go hand in hand. You cannot expect privileges without rendering responsibilities. Second point, the greater the responsibilities one undertakes, the greater the privileges one enjoys. Third one, to demand rights and privileges without discharging one's duties and responsibilities would be unethical and suicidal. When a person discharges his responsibilities sincerely, privileges come to him unsought. Fifth aspect is, we have to work without respite. Next aspect is, we have to work always in the spirit of yajna, that means without selfish motives. Seventh one is, we have to learn to renew ourselves daily. We have to learn to renew ourselves daily despite tensions and restlessness that are the characteristics of today's society. Next point is, we have to work to remove the evils and sufferings and for increasing the good and happiness of the world at large. Last 2 points are very important. As we go on working, we will find that the world will continue to remain a mixture of good and evil, of happiness and suffering. Final point is, in our attempt to protect the world, we would end up perfecting ourselves, which is the goal of human life. To conclude, I want to quote the words of Swami Vivekananda and take leave of you. I have some urgent work immediately. I have to attend at 12 o'clock. What is that? Swami Vivekananda says, we must give out our best in a situation, but we must not wait like a street beggar for a little prize or glory or success. That beggar-like attitude brings all the misery. See, when we understand all these ideals, when we start introspecting on these things, definitely it helps us to grow individually, and to the best of our ability, we can cater the needs of the society at large. Repeating the words of Swami Vivekananda, they alone live who live for others. The rest are more dead than alive, should be the motto should be in the forefront of our every day's beginning. I thank our management of Dayanand Sagar institutions for extending me this great opportunity to be a part of the centenary celebrations of that great soul, Shri Dayanand Sagarji. On this occasion, I have shared some of my thoughts with all my nearest and dearest personalities. I wish the year-long celebrations of the centenary will be a great success. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you one and all. Jai Ram Krishna.